Surviving the Aplewhites, Chapter 9. Edie slammed the door to her room and threw herself on the bed. Not one word, she thought. Neither her mother nor Zedediah had said a single word about her to Jeremy Bernstein. Her name hadn't even been mentioned. She might as well have been in Treybridge with her father. Invisible, that's what she was, the invisible Applewhite. It was too much. She wanted out of this family. She turned over and lay on her back, staring up at the posters of rock stars she had taped to the ceiling. Cordelia and Hal didn't have posters of rock stars. They wouldn't sink so low as to admit that they liked what almost every other kid their age in the whole civilized world liked. Oh, no. They were much too individual for that. Much too artsy. And that wimpy Jeremy Bernstein probably never had rock stars on his ceiling either. He probably had posters of Shakespeare or Picasso or Edith Wharton. Well, she had news for her family. She might not have a talent that would get a television producer excited about doing a story on her, but she wouldn't lose track of the date and forget to go to the grocery when they were out of food. Unlike certain other people, she was going to be able to cope with the real world when she got old enough to go out into it on her own. The way Jeremy Bernstein had talked about the Creative Academy, anybody would have thought that the adults had thought it up specifically to educate the next generation of artistic geniuses. The truth was, she was the only one who was doing anything to keep it any sort of school at all. The only one actually getting an education from it, and the only one making sure that Destiny would get an education. She had read somewhere that the very best way to learn something was to teach it, and so she had built in teaching opportunities section into every single project in her curriculum. When she'd learned enough about each project, she taught the main ideas to Destiny. That way he was learning a whole bunch of things he might never decide to learn on his own, and he was learning them really early, before he was even supposed to be a student at the academy, so that when he began doing his own thing, whatever that turned out to be, he wouldn't end up as ignorant as Cordelia and Hal were bound to be. Jeremy Bernstein was worried about a television show invading their family's privacy? That just showed how little he understood them. Every last one of them lived to be the center of attention, even Hal. Turning himself into a recluse guaranteed that people would talk about him. She threw her extra pillows across the room. She hated being an Applewhite.